What were the cities of the Levites going to be like? This is the question that we seek to answer today as we continue our verse-by-verse study of the book of Numbers on Walking Through the Bible. If you have a Bible with you, turn to Numbers 35. We're going to be reading from verses 1 to 8. If you don't have a Bible, don't worry. Just follow along with us on the screen. The version that we'll be reading from is the New King James Version. So Numbers 35, beginning at verse 1. And the Lord spoke to Moses in the plains of Moab by the Jordan across from Jericho, saying, Command the children of Israel that they give the Levites cities to dwell in from the inheritance of their possession. And you shall also give the Levites common land around the cities. They shall have the cities to dwell in, and their common land shall be for their cattle, for their herds, and for their animals. The common land of the cities which you will give the Levites shall extend from the wall of the city outward 1,000 cubits all around. And you shall measure outside the city on the east side 2,000 cubits, on the south side 2,000 cubits, on the west side 2,000 cubits, and on the north side 2,000 cubits. The city shall be in the middle. This shall belong to them as common land for the cities. Now among the cities which you will give to the Levites, you shall appoint 6 cities of refuge, to which a manslayer may flee. And to these you shall add 42 cities. So all the cities you will give to the Levites shall be 48. These you shall give with their common land. And the cities which you will give shall be from the possession of the children of Israel. From the larger tribe you shall give many, from the smaller you shall give few. Each shall give some of its cities to the Levites in proportion to the inheritance that each receives. In chapter 34, we discussed the borders of Israel, as well as the men who would help Joshua and Eleazar divide the inheritance of the children of Israel. But we still have the matter of the Levites to consider. In both censuses, they were excluded from the count due to the fact that they wouldn't have men to go out to war, but also because they would not receive any land as an inheritance. But where would the Levites live? Would they be nomads, depending on the charity of Israel to provide them homes and other necessities? Were they to live ascetic lives, devoid of possessions or pleasures of this earth? The answer to both questions is no. Even though they did not receive land as an inheritance, they were to be provided for by the Lord in the form of cities. That meant that instead of a family owning portions of land, the Levites would be divided up into small groups, and each group would inhabit a city. These cities would be divided up between the tribes, with larger tribes granting the Levites more cities, while smaller tribes granting the Levites fewer cities. The size of the cities in terms of the land they occupied is not defined here in Numbers 35. However, the land surrounding that would be used for pastures, what the New King James calls common land around the city. The common land shall extend from the walls of the city 1,000 cubits all around, with the city in the middle. That meant that if you exclude the size of the cities, the Levites would have territory that measured 2,000 cubits running up and down, and 2,000 cubits running side to side, as shown in the diagram on the screen. As to the number of those cities that they received, there were 48 cities in all. Remember, the Levites at this time only totaled 23,000 men, 1 month old and above. So in total, we're talking about 50,000 people, meaning that each city had about 1,000 people to begin with. That these cities would be scattered throughout Israel would again show us that the prophecy of Jacob in Genesis 49 verse 7 was fulfilled in that the children of Levi would be scattered throughout Israel. So just because the Levites did not receive land that each family could possess, God did provide for them places to live and pastures for the animals that would be tithed by the children of Israel. These animals could be used for food, and the skins and hair used for the making of clothing. This shows us the Levites weren't forced to take vows of poverty or live in terrible conditions simply because they had been chosen to serve the Lord in the tabernacle. Yes, they might not be as rich as others in Israel who had land, but they would not be poor either. When it comes to how preachers are treated today, there is a lesson in this for us. No, the preacher who devotes his life to full-time preaching of the gospel won't be the richest among the congregation among whom he works. But that doesn't mean he has to be the poorest either. He can own a house, he can provide food for his family, and have some of the same possessions that other members have. All Christians are warned not to fall in love with money or earthly possessions, and the preacher isn't excluded from that warning. But I fear that some Christians feel that if the preacher isn't living in worse conditions than most in the congregation, then they are being overpaid. A worker is worthy of his wages. It was true of the Levites in Moses' day, and is still true today. Mentioned here in Numbers 35 is something that we've not read of before in the Old Testament, except very briefly in Exodus 21:13, Cities of Refuge. We'll learn what these cities were, beginning, the Lord willing, in the next lesson. With that, our time is up for today. The Lord willing, we hope you'll join us for tomorrow's discussion of Numbers 35, verses 9 to 21, as we continue our walk through the Bible, one verse at a time. Thank you for watching today's episode. We hope that you found it edifying and ask that you not only subscribe to our channel and podcast, but that you like and share this episode among your friends, so that the saving gospel of Jesus Christ can go out to the whole world.